So we have left off in tests and we are inside exercises tests 1. And let's see. Tests are important to ensure that your code does what you think it should do. Tests can be run on this file with the following command: Rustlings run tests1. This test has a problem with it. Make the test compile, make the test pass, make the test fail. And as you can see, all we have in here is a single test. And you might have seen some tests in the previous exercises. So we always start with this hashtag symbol, then with the brackets. We call CFG, which stands for configure test, and this basically says that the following contains test modules and test functions. So the compiler knows that these are for testing. So when you build a real project, the compiler won't compile this stuff. This is only in development mode. So as you can see, we have a module test, and then basically in here you put your different tests, and each test starts again with a hashtag symbol and then brackets and test. So as you can see, we have here a test function you can assert, and we have here an assert macro, and all this basically does is it checks inside these parentheses, is it returning true? And that's all what we need. So if I type in here true, it should actually compile, as you can see. Because all assert really does is it just checks, is this in here true or not? Let's make it false. As you can see, failed. So assertion failed, false. And that's basically it. All assert does is just it checks, does this inside evaluate to true? Right. Second one. This test has a problem with it, make the test compile, and so on. The same thing over here, but actually now we have the assert equal macro, and what this does is it basically takes two values separated by commas, and or basically separated by a comma, and it checks, are these two values the same? For example, if I pass here 7 and the second value 7, let's see. As you can see, it's compiling. Let's give it another example. We have 4 and we have 2 plus 2. And as you can see, it's compiling because this value is the same as this value. So if we had, for example, over here, let name and string from, and of course this has to be like that, string from, and I will put my name, and if we put it like that, so we have over here my name to string, and the second value should be this name variable. Let's see. it's compiling, because this holds the same value. So you can put anything in here and it just compares, are these two values the same. So let's undo that. Let's keep it like this. All right. And the last one. This test isn't testing our function. Make it do that in such a way that the test passes. Then write a second test that tests whether we get the result we expect to get when we call is even 5. Alright, we have here a public function, is even. It takes a num argument of type integer 32 bits and it returns a boolean. And over here we have num, this argument, modulus 2 equals 0. So what is modulus? It's basically this operator, and you can find it in like any programming language, and people also call it the remainder, because all it really does is it shows how much remained of a value. For example, if we have 10, 2, then this would be 0, because 10 divided by 2 will be 5, and there is nothing remaining. But in the case, for example, 7, 2, then this would be 1, because 7 divided by 2 would equal to 3 if we are talking in an integer context. So we are talking of integers here, which are always whole numbers. So we have 3, and 3 times 2 will equal to 6. So what will remain? It will remain 1, like that. And this is basically all this function or this operator stands for. It's a remainder. And basically, simple logic, if the remainder is 0, when we have a modulus of 2, then the number is even, because nothing will remain. So for example, sit or 6 modulus 2 will equal to 0, because we have 3 times 2 is 6 and nothing is left over, like that. And all this does is it takes the number modulus 2, and if it equals to 0, then we return true. If it is not 0, it will return false. And as you can see, we have two test functions over here, and as you can see here, we have use super star, and this star is basically a wildcard symbol. It just says that we take anything. Super means that we take anything a layer above this module test. So everything over there is imported over here, and then we can use it. And this is important because we want to test this function over here. So we have two tests, and as you can see, on every test we put this syntax, and we have here function is true when even. So we assert when we call is even, and we pass it an even number, let's say 4. And here we have is false when odd. So we have to basically pass it an odd number like that. But as you can see here, if it is even, it returns true, and this will assert to true. So this test passes. As for this one, when we pass 5, we have a remainder of 1, and this will return false because 1 is not equal to 0. So this returns false, and we have false over here. And assert, as you know, should return true, so the test passes. So what we then can do is we put here exclamation mark, and this basically does the opposite of what is in there. So basically true is equals to false, and the same like false is equal to true. When we have exclamation mark before the value, it basically takes the opposite of this value. So true, make this exclamation mark makes it false, and this would pass because false is equals to false. And here again we have false, and we make it true by this one. And that's why over here we want basically to check that this function will return false if the number is not even. So when we return false over here, that's basically what we want. So we make it true so that the function or that the test passes. So let's see. And as you can see, everything is compiling and we are done. And we will start in the next episode with lifetimes. See you then.